2021. I can't wait to see what happens this year.
Putting 2020 behind us, wow, that really is something to celebrate. But you know what? We're also celebrating the beginning of a new month. And this month, we're learning all about responsibility. So what is responsibility? Responsibility is showing that you can be trusted with what's expected of you.
If the idea of thinking about rules sounds kind of yucky to you, just think about all the games that we play. We learn the rules of these games and, well, it makes them a lot more fun. So let's learn a few rules of life this month, and I bet we all turn out to be winners. This week's Bible lesson comes from the very last week that Jesus was alive. Jesus had entered Jerusalem to the sound of great rejoicing. People there were so excited to see him. Well, almost everybody. There were those guys who were in charge who, well, they felt a little threatened by his popularity, and they decided they needed to trap him. Jesus was ready for their trap, though, and when this guy, one of the teachers of the law, came up with a question that he was just sure would make Jesus less popular with, well, gosh, everybody, Jesus taught him a lesson that, well, it's one of my favorites. You can find the passage I'm about to read to you in the Gospel of Matthew in chapter 22, beginning with verse 36. Teacher, he asked, which is the most important commandment in the law? Jesus replied, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul. Love him with all your mind. This is the first and most important commandment. And the second one is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. Everything that is written in the law and the prophets is based on these two commandments. I love studying the Bible, but I can honestly tell you that if you remember these two sentences, you know what the whole book is about. Love God, love others. In 2020, it was super hard to find ways to get out there and show the world God's love because, well, we couldn't get out there and hang out with everybody. But did you see some of the news stories about some of the great creative ways people found to help? I loved this story about the 7-year-old boy whose babysitter was sad because her prom got canceled because of the pandemic. And you know what he did? He threw her a prom in his own backyard. He got dressed up and everything. Aren't they the cutest? Then there were these teenagers in Texas who decided they knew a great way to help. Because their elderly neighbors couldn't get out and go to the grocery, they did their grocery shopping for them. And of course, there were the healthcare workers who, since the virus wasn't terribly bad where they lived, went to the places that it was terrible so they could help. Here's a picture of one mom after she finally got to go home after weeks and weeks of helping out in New York City. I hope you noticed that only one of those examples that I showed you was an adult. You can help no matter how young you are. After all, don't you remember what Paul had to say to his friend Timothy? You can look in the first letter to Timothy, chapter 4, verse 12 for this one. Don't let anyone look down on you because you are young. Set an example for the believers in what you say and do and in how you live. Also set an example in how you love and in what you believe. Show the believers how to be pure. So, what is expected of you, huh? Well, if you don't have a really good idea of where to start, just start by treating others the way you want to be treated. I know following the golden rule seems like a pretty small thing, but you know what? It's the small things that make the biggest difference. Consider our memory verse for this month. Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. And you can find that in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 16, verse 10. I can't promise you that 2021 is going to be any better than 2020. But you know what I can promise you? If you join me on these videos each week and study with me the rules for life, well, we just might get on the right track. I can't wait to learn more about these rules with you next week. Goodbye.